I'm Vanessa Skotnitsky and my piece is titled Expire. I was inspired that day to go out and take photos because there was lots of smoke and the air was quite, I'd say kind of orangey, and it completely blocked out the mountains and everything. So I just thought it was a really cool atmosphere to go out and do photography in. So I went to the lake in Sycamoose, just the public beach there, and I set up with my tripod on the sand and climbed into the water. So yeah, so I got a few different shots that day. I usually, if I'm doing photos like this with water, I start kind of like out of the water and then I'll like work my way in and get a few different things. And so this was one of the last shots that I got that day. Self-portrait shoots are a lot of photos. So many, like sometimes 400 or 500. I set my camera on like a burst mode for like 10 photos at once. And the reason for that is because it's so much trial and error, you can't see what you're doing. So you have to just kind of like hope for the best. And so I like doing the burst shots because even just like a small movement of the hand or the way the hair is maybe blowing in the wind or in the water or something like that can really make the image so much more. Like I like those little details. So then I have 10 to pick from that one particular shutter press. So I do end up with a lot of photos, a lot. If I have an assistant, it's one of my kids, but usually if we're at the beach or something, they are pretty busy doing their own thing to help me too much. So it is trial and error, and I will set my focus to a particular spot, and then I just try. It's hard with water because there's not really anything there to tell exactly. If it's grass or something, I'll be like that blade of grass, and then I'll go stand next to it. But it's a little bit difficult with water. I just try to make sure that I'm in the right place, and I do get in and out of the water soaking wet, touching my camera drippy, just to see what's going on, and then I try again if I'm not centered or something. I have a Canon Rebel, and so it's not like the most expensive equipment ever. I actually, like, I'm a single mom, I ain't rich. I actually won my camera from a photo contest that was hosted by London Drugs. So and if I didn't have that, I would use whatever. Like I would use my phone. I would use whatever I could get my hands on. That's kind of just how I work, so. Yeah, I like to work in everything, anything that catches my eye. I like to do a lot of digital art, and the reason for that is when my kids were younger, it was hard to like leave out my art supplies without them getting into it and making a mess. So that's kind of how I got into digital art. I could save something and it was completely clean. It was just there and I could get back to it. So that's kind of why I started digital stuff, but I really enjoy it, so I stick with that. Now that my kids are older, I am getting into other things like painting, or I just pick up anything that catches my eye, really. It could be anything. And I like to combine them too. So if I am really interested in painting, then I might combine painting with my photography, or anything that I can find that I can mash together, I'm kind of interested in. I like people to look at something and not necessarily know how I got that result, and look at it and be like, that really does look like a painting, but it also looks like it was made digitally. So I do enjoy mixing them rather than doing straight up one or the other. And I also enjoy reusing stuff. So if I paint one sheet and I scan it, I can use it in this piece, and I can use it in this piece, and I can use it in this piece. And I've only painted one piece of paper. So that's kind of part of it too. I don't have storage for like all these endless paintings, so it does kind of cut down on that a little bit. I also really, really love the actual, just like the real texture and the real like the spontaneity of like what happens with watercolor. It's less doing its own thing if you're doing it on the computer, and like when you're making it in real life, it has its its own mind, and it's just kind of like, I'm gonna drip here and I'm gonna do this, and I just like that whole process. So I really like to bring that into the digital work as much as I can. I am not vaping in that photo, but I think that question is awesome because I do like to do things that are real, and I could get the same effect by vaping, I guess. I know I could take a similar image where I'm vaping and maybe people would be like, I don't know which one she's vaping or which one she's Photoshop. So I kind of like that idea. So I like to take my own like textures and overlays and stuff like that. So for this image, what I did is I set up a black background, and I have a fog machine, and I set my fog machine up, and I just take pictures of the fog blowing in front of the black background. And then what I can do is I can bring it up in Photoshop and put it on the image and set it to, this is used screen mode, it depends on what you're doing, but for smoke, screen mode works really well. And what it does is it just like makes the black go away, and anything white will show up on a darker background. So it's just really simple way to get a smoke effect in a image. So sometimes I go out with a certain image in mind and I will try to create it, but I don't only stick with that one idea. Like I'll always play around on the day in the spot with what's going on. And sometimes I'll go out, like there's been a couple times I've gone out and there was like randomly a door at the beach stuck in the sand, and I was like, well, I wasn't planning on shooting with a door, but let's do it. So, you know, I'm always open to whatever comes up, and it's kind of the same way with my editing is if I'm trying to put something together and I had an idea in mind, but it's just not sitting right, I'll just try something else. And I actually really end up loving the things that I didn't have planned that just kind of come out of me. They feel a little bit more natural and kind of like it's my subconscious speaking to me or something like that. So I do them both, but I actually like the intuitive, just kind of making things on a whim a little bit more. Because when I post something on Instagram, people really only look at an Instagram post for like 1 or 2 days, and then it's just kind of like gone. It's not, people don't usually scroll back and look through your stuff. Sometimes they do, but usually it's like you post it, you comment a little bit back and forth with people, and then it's like it didn't exist. It's just, it vaporizes. And so the fact that I know that this is here and like people are coming by and looking at it for longer than 1 or 2 days, it's a little bit different to know that, but then at the same time, like I'm not here to see them or talk to them or hear their comments, whereas people comment directly to me or they message me on Instagram. So there's kind of like a weird disconnect, but also this like longer like life of the image. So yeah, it's different. It's just different. The image can be interpreted, you know, depending on how you look at it and your own experiences with climate change and all around nature and being able to breathe and air quality and all that. I have a YouTube channel and Instagram. My main, anything that you can find me is usually under Wild Empress. My more black and white, darker, emotional stuff is haunted_wild on Instagram. And other than that, if you wanted to see my book cover work, you could check out Vanessa Skotnitsky on archangel.com and see my book cover stuff. It's less exciting, but it's there. Yeah, and that's pretty much, I have a Facebook, but I don't use it, so don't worry about that. Instagram and YouTube's where I'm at.